What is up? Welcome into this Monday edition of Pushing the Pile. I'm Mike Renner. He's Kyle Long. A lot to get to on today's show as we go through and preview the AFC. We have a little bit of a game for you guys as we do it, going to get a full preview and the burning question that we both have for each AFC team. But first is the first off the ball segment where we're going through some news that we missed. This one happened midway through last week. Right after our Wednesday show, it kind of blew up. So we didn't get to hit on it at the time, but we wanted to go back and touch on it because Darrell Doucette, the QB of the USA flag football team, had some choice words to say about Patrick Mahomes and everyone's assumption that he would be the quarterback for USA's flag football when it comes to the Olympics in 2028, saying that it's Darrell's brain that separates him on the football field.
He's got an elite brain.
From guys like Patrick Mahomes, but basically saying that he should be the quarterback when it's all said and done for this team.
Well, look, I mean, we got to see some footage of our guy Doucette, and hats off to him as football players. And I heard Robert Griffin III talk about this the other day. All we want as football players is the opportunity to represent our country on an international scale, on an Olympic level competition, like the World Baseball Classic does it, which is a lot of fun. We take pride in our game. This is clearly a young man who takes a lot of pride in his game. I'm not sure his age for the next Olympics. Maybe he will get a little bit taller, but he does throw the football obviously well enough to win the flag football World Cup.
Yes.
What are they playing?
They've won a couple here already. So, but he's 35. So I don't know at 39 if this guy's still going to have the game.
We've got some examples of it in the league, though.
But could we have a clip pulled up of this guy throwing? And now,
yes, sir. I am here. Oh! Yes, sir. Use your brain. Come on, man.
Saw him max out his arm in some of the clips. There were more going around Twitter after all this happened. He had about 50 yards in the tank.
I think really what sets him apart is his ability to evade traffic. And there were some other clips I saw on social media with him dropping it down low to the flow, as it were. And he was making those flags miss hands. You know what I'm saying? He's got some skills, but the pop, lock, and drop it, I'm not sure how many quarterbacks in the NFL could pop, lock, and drop it in traffic. He's got some skills.
I will say, though, impressive as a runner, for sure. He did have that. But when you put NFL players on, there will be a learning curve. But once they get up to speed in what like the rules of the game are and how it's supposed to be, like the advancement, I don't think people understand the advancement.
This is a Friday practice, Mike, okay? So guys in practice are told on Fridays, we want this to be a fast Friday. You fly around, you touch their pads, you don't hit anybody, no helmet to helmet. That's flag football. Now you're going to add in flags on Friday. That's what you're going to be looking at. And if you've ever watched a Friday practice, it's clean. Guys are flying around. It's as impressive as they're going to look physically. I think that's what you would see in flag football.
Yeah, I don't think people understand the difference between what NFL players do in a passing offense perspective and the precision and how accurate these guys are that are playing in the league versus what your even run-of-the-mill to high-end college quarterback looks like, right? Like they are capable of hitting dimes 40-plus yards down the football field to where that's like as far as this guy can throw. That's just a flick for a guy like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, Matt Nagy, who had a cup of coffee and played a lot of football, but not at the highest level. I saw him when he became a coach of the Bears. He used to just sit back at the 40 and hit the goalpost with the ball. Him and Trubisky and those guys. So I mean, the arm talent, there is a big disparity. We saw the guy Doucette throw it, but there's a lot of these skills that are unique to flag football that we're seeing with Doucette's game.
Guys thinking though, so it's a 5-on-5 game.
Yep.
Let's build our ultimate flag football roster. Who you got? Who's your O and who's your D from today's game right now? We're not going 4 years in the future. We're going right now.
So the easy thing would be to pick a quarterback first. I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to go just with God-given abilities. And first, we're going speed, and that is the cheetah down here in South Beach, South Florida, Tyreek Hill. I've seen it in person. Nobody does it like him. I think he could compete in like 4 events in the Olympics, including flag football. He's my first pick.
You gave your whole roster.
Okay, we're going to give our whole roster. Okay, then I'm going to go routes. I'm going to go just savvy, understanding of leverage, depth of drop for some of these DBs. Devontae Adams, he's open all the time. He is as smooth and as headstrong as anybody in the National Football League. Third pick, I want some unpredictability with my running style. I want the guy that's going to run a little bit like a caveman. Give me Isaiah Pacheco. Give him the football. You never know where those crazy legs are going. 4, intimidation factor. You need a guy who's willing to block, he's willing to catch, he's willing to maybe get a little down and nasty with a boom, George Kittle, okay? I need a WWF, WCW style football player out there. And then if I'm going to go quarterback, and it's not going to be Patrick Mahomes because that's a chalky pick, I'm going to go with the guy that's elusive. I'm going to go with the guy with a big arm who goes over the top like our guy Doucette, Kyler Murray. Okay?
Oh, that was my pick at quarterback,
it's
too.
really hard to get his flags.
Because there is a big difference in tackling a quarterback that's 5'9" versus one who's 6'5". When you're tackling a guy who's 6'5", it's like right here, right?
100%.
Like it's like at where your arm wants to go. But when there's a guy who's 5'9", tackling a guy when you're bending down like that,
that's tough sledding.
Completely different.
So do I go defense now, or do you go offense
You
now?
can go you can go to defense.
I'm going to go my defense now. There's a lot of one-word names on here. Sauce is my first pick on defense. Okay, you want a guy who's going to take away his side of the field, can match up with their strongest receiver, and get the job done. Ahmad Sauce Gardner. And then I want the real general in the middle of the football field, and who better than the guy in Baltimore, Roquan Smith. I had another opportunity to play with this guy in Chicago. Fabulous football player, loves the game. He would have this flag football defense foaming at the mouth in the pregame speeches, okay? Then I'm going to go Fred Warner. You want a guy who's a little bit more calm and collected than Roquan. Similar style, run and hit anything, sideline to sideline. Real brainy guy, okay, Fred Warner. I love him. And also, he's got that vertical. He can cover the layered footballs in the middle of the field, okay? And then I'm going to go Harrison Smith on the back end, okay? The hit man. Ooh. And granted, he can't do what he's been monikered to do, hit people. He can't hit men in this game. But what he can do is strike fear, because these guys have all watched real football, okay? Flag football players, they watch real football. They know who 22 is. They're going to keep the footsteps in mind when he's coming downhill. And then another guy. This is a lot of range. These are a lot of rangy players. This is probably my favorite pick on my team. It's L'Jarius Sneed. Ooh, a guy who will get you a turnover when you need it, get you a big stop when you need it. He's not going to say zilch throughout the course of the game, but my God, he's rangy, and that man can play some football.
I went a different route with myself.
All right.
I'm just prioritizing speed, and I'm prioritizing DBs on defense. So offense, Kyler Murray, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Justin Jefferson. Just separate.
That's a good.
I just want guys who can get away from other people. That's all it is. And then on defense, Jalen Johnson, Sauce Gardner. I think those are probably like your two top cover guys in the league right now. Not necessarily need tacklers from those positions, but then also I'll throw in Patrick Surtain into the mix. And then Trent McDuffie is my tackler, and Kyle Hamilton as well. Those two guys, they'll get flags on the ground. So that's my defense.
A lot of length there.
And it just prioritizing. It's a different game.
Grabbing. It's
all about that. It really is. When you can't hit, it's a completely different. You have to have guys that can mirror in space like that.
That's a good point. All right, I like that exercise.
I can't wait. I really hope we do get NFL players, though. Do you think we will come playing football 2028?
Man, like I said before, there's no goal other than winning the Super Bowl that's bigger than competing on a world stage for your country. I mean, carrying the American flag out. Are you kidding me? I can just see now Creed Humphrey. If they were to play real football, he would be the one that would carry it, like the most American dude you can think of. It's awesome, dude.
Hopefully sometime we get real.
These guys in the NFL would find a way to make it happen.
The game grows big enough. I would love if we get real football at some point. But
we're bored in the offseason.
Exactly. All right. Speaking of Creed Humphrey, signed a 4-year, $72 million deal. $50 million guaranteed, blowing away the market for the center position. Previously, the APY record was $13.5 million. Frank Ragnow. This one, obviously, $18 million per year. Big leap up. But my Lord, if anyone deserves it, it's Salt Mines.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dude that stepped into the room in Kansas City as a rookie and became the immediate leader, without question, the leader of Andy Heck's offensive line room. The guys drew to him because of his work ethic, his personality, his toughness, the way he plays football, his finish around finishing guys on the ground, around piles, finishing guys 15 yards down the field. He is what you want in an offensive lineman. Make no mistake about it. The game starts in the middle. He snaps the ball to the quarterback, who just so happens to be the best maybe to ever do it. They have a lot of fun in Kansas City. He's going to make a lot of money, and he's earned it. Congrats to Creed Humphrey.
Yes, that was a guy that I remember him coming out of Oklahoma. Liked him, didn't realize he would be what he was. First day you saw him as a rookie, you're like, okay, that guy's it. He's got it. You're just like, I wasn't high enough.
Next up is Trey Smith.
You just knew he was going to be, if not the best in the league, right up there.
Big old back.
For the
Hey,
rest of his career.
young O lineman, lift those backs. Do a lot of pull-ups, okay? A lot of pulls, because Creed Humphrey is as wide as a New York City, financial building, and it's because he worked at it. Okay, young men, get in the weight room, pull some stuff.
All right, a little preseason. Not going to give not a super exciting weekend, but we got some extended run of a few young quarterbacks.
Yep.
We saw Trevor Lawrence look pretty dialed in, probably some of the best we've seen him in a while. We saw Drake Maye have a good performance just the other day, and we saw Anthony Richardson late last week. Up and down performance. Any takeaways from any of those?
Well, the Drake Maye thing, I mean, physically, I really adored this kid coming out. I'm an Oregon Duck. I watched Justin Herbert come out, these freaks, Josh Allen, these guys who are just bigger than everybody, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, can throw a little harder. And I like his aw shucks attitude. And really, I got to see some of that comfort on display in his most recent preseason gameplay. The ball was out on time, and when it wasn't, you could see him scanning through his progression. He looked really comfortable in the pocket. It's clear to me that reps are going to be this guy's best friend, and he's a guy that probably craves this opportunity to play and play early in New England, regardless if the sky's falling around him. That's the guy you want in New England. If I'm a Bostonian, that's the dude I want playing quarterback.
Yeah, two things that really I took away from this was, one, he is fearless in terms of delivered so many balls, just like move after having moved from the pocket with guys bearing down on him. And two, he was under pressure every single play still. Like that offensive line is bad in front of him. And obviously not all the starters there playing with him, but it's just not going to be good there in New England. So if I'm debating, I still lean on the redshirt year just because he could get killed this year.
From an outsider's perspective, we can say that easily, but there's a kid who's chomping at the bit right now to prove himself in a bad year for New England.
I will say, Anthony Richardson, I know he had the bad pick six, and that was kind of a miscommunication between him and Kyle Granson. The rest of his performance, though, I thought was encouraging. And also I thought was encouraging was Adonai Mitchell, who was getting open left and right for him at wide receiver, because I think one of the biggest things was last year, and obviously he had Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, right, coming into the league. Alec Pierce is not getting open. He was not a viable number two in that offense. I think they very much now have one in Adonai Mitchell. So excited for that Colts team.
So you did really enjoy the Anthony Richardson showing, albeit there was...
Well, I enjoyed what I saw from that Colts offense in terms of the RPOs they were doing, the run game stuff, the wide receiver talent on the outside. I just think...
It's not all on the shoulders of him.
Exactly. He doesn't have to be Superman.
I like that about
even if he can't be Superman at times. All right. And we're going to get to the Colts here maybe in a little bit, because we are going to preview the AFC right after this break.
Yeah, they're wrapping up the summer. And now we're looking forward to kicking it with superstars. Now that's CBS Sports Sunday. We'll see you on September 8th.
All right. Welcome back. As a reminder, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. We're doing a little AFC preview, but we're going to do it recess style. We're going to be picking the teams back and forth. Kyle's going to get first pick with the AFC. I'll get first pick with the NFC. And we are going to pick which teams we think are going to have the most wins. We're going to track this throughout the season.
Today, all AFC.
Who picks the better ones? Pick AFC today, NFC on Wednesday. And we're going to give a burning question. What we want to know from this team that we don't quite know just yet heading into this season. So you have the first pick?
So the first pick of who I think is going to have the most wins, the Kansas City friggin' Chiefs. I think it's going to be a three-peat this year. I've already said it. Patrick Mahomes is going to win an MVP again. I mean, that was a chalky first pick, very easy. Last year, Kansas City Chiefs, 11-6. Not as many wins as you might have thought, but they're over under this year, 11.5 wins. That's juiced a little bit, minus 110 right now, but helping them in their favor. 21st hardest schedule. A lot of that's because a lot of people aren't believing in this AFC West division. Truthfully, probably the easiest division right now as it stands in the AFC. That's obviously playing in their favor. Last season, or over the course of the offseason, key additions, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Kingsley Suamada-Ia. They really revamped that wide receiving core. Kingsley, a rookie at left tackle. We shall see. Key losses, though, L'Jarius Sneed, Donovan Smith, Willie Gay, and MVS. They're going to lose. L'Jarius Sneed's going to hurt. The rest of those, I'm not sure, are massive losses. What is still the question you are burning? My burning question is this: the guy that you can rely upon so heavily in all the big moments, in the Slim Reaper game, the Grim Reaper game, Patrick Mahomes has relied on Travis Kelce. And I understand they have an influx of talent coming in from this offseason, but what is Andy Reid's plan for keeping Travis fresh for when the time comes for this Chiefs team to take it to the Super Bowl, which in my mind, there's no doubt they're going to do. Are they going to have 87 healthy and ready to rock out come Super Bowl time?
That's definitely, because it's almost like Gronk years with Brady, right? When Gronk was there, it seemed like Brady could make that postseason run. When Gronk wasn't there, Brady they didn't have the gas. They didn't have that guy to consistently go to. So I agree with that. And the thing is, though, Kelsey, he never gets hurt, man. Ever since that rookie year where he obviously missed the entire year. I can't remember exactly.
Well, there's a difference between being hurt and injured.
Yes,
and he's always hurt, but he ain't ever injured. And he was injured early in his career, and I think he's taken the proper steps. But as you know, you're fighting two fires, and there's another one burning over here out west, and he's got to put it out in time. So are they going to have those fires under control come time for the playoffs?
My burning question, can this team stay hungry? Now, I know there's no needing to light a fire under Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Those guys got it. But this is a roster that has enjoyed a lot of success and is pretty much static, right? They didn't add a ton of new guys who are coming in wanting to join the fold like yourself and get that ring, on their own.
That didn't work.
A lot of those guys have rings already. So can they stay hungry and continue, especially through the gauntlet that's going to be the AFC? I'm probably going to say gauntlet a zillion times today, but it's true. Like this AFC, some of the teams we're going to be leaving out of the playoffs are teams that could legitimately win a Super Bowl.
It's a battle royale over there.
It's tough. It's
a regular battle royale, war zone, as the kids say.
But they're the easy number one pick because, they won Super Bowl and two. It's just like they didn't lose much. It's rare to see a Super Bowl champ with paying a quarterback that much be able to keep that roster as intact as they did, and even like upgrade positions on the roster specifically.
You did mention MVS, Willie Gay out, and in my opinion, these are guys that were real situational key players for them. I mean, yes, people talk about MVS dropping passes and Willie Gay was out at some times, but when they were on the football field and they were doing their job, they did a really good job. So moving on from the Chiefs.
All right. My pick, you got the Chiefs. I'll take the Texans.
Ooh.
As the next team in the AFC. 10 wins last year. Their over-under is only at 9.5, but it's utterly juiced to the over, unsurprisingly, because, I'm picking them to go way over that this year at minus 140. Because of this, key additions, Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter, Joe Mixon, Azeez Al-Shaair, Jeffrey Okudah, Foley Fadakasu, Danico Autry, Kamari Lassiter. I mean, the list goes on and on. Key losses, Jonathan Grenard, Devin Singletary, Blake Cashman. Basically, all those guys, they've signed maybe an upgrade over or traded for an upgrade over.
Yep.
And the burning question for me then is, are they ready for these high expectations? Because when you look at this roster, it's not only some of those vets that they brought in, but it's young, man. CJ Stroud, second year. Nico Collins, fourth year. Tank Dell, second year. Kenyon Green, fourth year. Juice Scruggs, their center, second year. Will Anderson on defense, second year. Christian Harris, linebacker, third year. Henry To'oTo'o, second year. Derek Stingley, third year, corner. Kamari Lassiter, rookie corner. Jalen Petrie, third year safety. Like, key positions, key players, also young. Obviously, if you're a fan of the Texans, that's what you want. If you're a fan of any team, that's
get expensive quick.
That's ideal. It's going to get expensive.
Decisions here soon, Houstonians. Okay, it looks good now. You better win now, Houston.
But that's exactly it. Are they ready? Do they have the balance of youth and vets? And I love what they did this offseason in doing so and getting vets that have been around the block themselves. Do they have it? Are they ready for those high expectations?
Dude, I mean,
I hope they are.
That's the billion-dollar question, ain't it? I mean, they have all the pieces.
Yeah.
And they went and got better on the defensive side of the ball. And really what you're trying to do in the offseason is get ready to play the Kansas City Chiefs and give them a run for their money. So you go and get a great pass rusher into Danielle Hunter. You've already got a quarterback who can score a ton of points. You add a superstar in Stephon Diggs. My God. But the window's open now. Stephon jumped from one Buffalo to the other Buffalo now. They're both loaded. They both can score a ton of points. But can you beat the Chiefs? That's the question. So the Texans are yours. You think we can go on to the third pick now?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to the third pick here. My pick right up the road from Charlottesville, Virginia, a couple hours. It's the Baltimore friggin' Ravens and Lamar Jackson, and now you get King Henry. I think that something changes here, and they're able to get their flow offensively to roll into the postseason from the regular season because they've got a new guy in town. But I'm going to let you set the stage for the Baltimore Ravens.
I'll say this. Ravens, 13 wins last year. 13-4, 11.5. So I believe they have the second most or the highest win percent total in the AFC right now. But that's juiced to the under. If you want to go over that, it's plus 110 at this moment. People aren't quite buying the Ravens repeating. The biggest thing being
a lot of question marks in that AFC
the North.
towards the
The
top.
North's tough. They have the 4th hardest schedule in the NFL. Yeah, they added Derrick Henry. Yeah, I like what I've seen from Nate Wiggins, their first rounder at corner. Roger Rosengarten, who's starting at right tackle, their second rounder. But they lost Morgan Moses, their right tackle, Kevin Zeitler, their right guard, John Simpson, their left guard. That's 3 guys to replace on the O-line. Patrick Queen at linebacker, Geno Stone at safety. What's your burning question?
My burning question is this. Are they going to be able to not turn into a shell of themselves when and if they host another playoff game, particularly against the reigning Super Bowl champions? I mean, but it won't be that way this year. I think Kansas City will host the whole way out. But Baltimore's going to have to probably travel. And when they do, which version of Lamar Jackson are we going to see? Is he going to eat his Wheaties in the morning or something else?
This is
Because you can't hand it to Derek the whole time. They're going to stack the box eventually, and you're going to force Lamar to make plays. I am a big Lamar Jackson fan. I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. But the burning question is, can he do it in crunch time?
I wanted him to win last year just because
that's the question.
I hate these conversations. I hate these conversations because there's no in the NFL, it's just such small sample sizes, right? And with Lamar, it's been three playoff games that have really been oof kind of games. And it's sometimes that just happens. Yep. It doesn't mean the guy's a choker, especially at this stage in his career. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way at those times. So I hate those conversations because it's hard to put that on a guy as his personality when sometimes it's just flukes that you run into.
Sometimes has nothing to do with the personality.
Peyton Manning
and all because of the throw that Travis Kelce gets from Patrick Mahomes. That's back shoulder, back ankle. Uncoverable balls from great players. You need to find a way to match that greatness. And when that happens, you slam the door on it by going and kicking one of theirs down. And I'm looking for Lamar to do that, and it could be this year. I got him high on my list because you're in the DMV area in Charlottesville.
Yeah, my burning question is, where does this team really get better? I mean, Derrick Henry and this running back room is the only place on this roster where I can point to and say, I think that's a big improvement from last year.
Well, how much of their offense is predicated on...
And it's a big part of their offense, don't get me wrong.
Respecting the run, translating to throwing the ball downfield.
But now that you're going to 3 new stars along the offensive line, right? You lost all those guys. And it's Derrick Henry's better, but if Andrew Voorhees at left guard and Daniel Faalele at right guard aren't blocking, open up holes for him.
Tell you what, I'd rather sell play action and mash faces with the right tackle and the right guard together than have them in man protection, 5-man protection. You know what I'm saying? If you want to put a Band-Aid on an offense, let an offensive line sell run and make a defense feel run. And then it takes away the edge of their pass rush moves.
As the saying goes, though, if you're not getting better in the NFL,
you're getting worse?
Getting worse.
There you go.
And I don't know where the Ravens necessarily got better this offseason. All right, my next pick. I'm going to go with the New York Jets.
Wow.
We're going high on the Jets this year.
I got to go down my list to scratch that off.
Last season, 7-10. 9.5 wins, though, is their win total projection. It's juiced a little to the over, -115. But they have the 29th ranked schedule in the NFL. They added this offseason Mike Williams, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, John Simpson, Hassan Reddick, possibly, Olu Fashanu and Malachi Corley in the draft, left tackle and slot receiver, respectively. It's a lot. They only lost Laken Tomlinson, Bryce Huff, who kind of is like a swap for Hassan Reddick, Jordan Whitehead, the safety, and Mekhi Becton, who was oft injured. So I'd say more good than bad. And then obviously the big addition, Aaron Rodgers coming back from injury. So my only burning question is how can they get these new parts to gel? Because on offensively, Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams, Malachi Corley, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, a lot to get into the fold quickly there. Now, a lot of those guys have been around the block. They are old for the most part. Keeping them healthy is also a big question with this roster. But if they do gel, and this does work, like what I see here, this is a darn good football team because they've had the best defense in the AFC for 2 years running now. 2 years running. It just needed anything on the offense side of the ball. They still won 7 games last year. And now they go from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. So that's why I'm picking them with the fourth pick.
I do love that pick, and that's a ballsy pick there, Mike. And I respect it. And here's why. And I like your burning question. And to answer it, I would say, yes, they're going to gel. It's because they've got a guy named Aaron Rodgers who communicates really well. He takes these guys who are newcomers, brings them under his wing. Next thing you know, they all feel at home under Aaron Rodgers' tutelage. The burning question I have is is this offensive line that we see trot out there week 1 going to look anything like the offensive line we see in week 18? That will determine the success of Aaron Rodgers, the Jets, his health. All the burning questions will be answered. It all comes down to the offensive line. You and I both like the pieces they brought in. You and I like the plan. We think, obviously, you really like it. You've got them high. But to me, if you can't stay healthy up front, that will determine the Jets' success.
I will say, though, they gave themselves good – the Fashanu pick, that's insurance. Like, not many teams have a guy that looks that good right now as a swing tackle option. And truthfully, he could even start at guard if they wanted to.
Swing O-lineman.
Yes. Like, not a lot of teams have that flexibility.
Joe Thuney type.
Yes. So that right there is immediately night and day from what we saw from last year, where any injury turned that O-line into bad paper.
Yeah, well, it was in conjunction with the fact that the signal caller wasn't savvy, didn't have moxie, didn't have a general couth about him in the pocket.
Say what you really think here.
You know, that's what happens when you've got a underperforming O-line with an underexperienced quarterback. It just doesn't pair well. It's like me in muscle shirts. You know, I get man boobs and my tire sticks out from my waist. It just doesn't work. So I'm going to go on here to my next pick, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Ooh,
okay. I picked Joe Burrow for the comeback player of the year. I really believe in it. I was so fabulously impressed with him early in his career with the cast of characters that he was given in Cincinnati. I saw it firsthand against the Kansas City Chiefs when Jamar Chase had about 2 million yards and we couldn't freaking get a man to cover him. And they went on and they lost in the Super Bowl. And since then, he's had a rough go of it. He's had some success, but I really think this is the year that Joe Burrow emerges from the smoke in turn 3 with his foot on the gas pedal, and he doesn't even have to look in the rearview mirror because this will be his year. And I think the Jamar Chase conversation is an interesting one, but he's betting on himself. He knows it's going to be a special year. Joe Burrow must look great. I've got the Bengals there for my third pick.
Hard to bet against the Bengals. They went 9-8 last year when Burrow only played 9.5 games. They have that insurance of how good Jake Browning looked at quarterback. If Joe Burrow does go down, obviously that wrist injury is one of the biggest questions with them. But they went 9-8. 10.5 wins is their projected total from Vegas. -120, it's juice to the over. People see them having a big bounce back, yourself included, because 27th easiest schedule in the NFL. What they drew, taking 4th place last year in the AFC North, they drew the Titans, Chargers, Pats, and Panthers as their ranked games from a year ago. That's not a bad spot to be.
That's a good place to be.
That's not a bad spot to be in.
I do have a burning question about these Cincinnati Bengals, though.
What is it?
How are they going to hold up on the back end? Because I like their front seven. I do. I like the group that they have, and I know that they've reloaded and retooled at some spots, but that back end is one that I'm not quite familiar with as I am with the old regime.
Yes.
So help me feel better about the Cincinnati Bengals on the back end.
Massive turnover, and I will, because I do think, one, the addition of Geno Stone, ball hawking safety, I think that's an upgrade. They brought Von Bell back after the year away in Carolina. I like what I saw from Jordan Battle. He obviously had that pick 6 in the game over the weekend against the Indianapolis Colts. And Dax Hill switching from safety to corner, I think is a very, very underrated move based off of what I saw this preseason. He was a guy coming out of Michigan who played slot corner and was a man cover slot corner. And they wanted to move him to safety. And he did not have the instincts of a safety. A lot of their issues last year were purely related to him not being able to read route concepts from deep alignment. On ball, on the outside, he looked like a completely different guy this preseason. Better than...
Think less, react more?
100%. Better than whatever they had last year.
He was a tackle, I tell you that much.
And we already, Cam Taylor-Britt already kind of had that breakout second year last year. Going into year 3, he could be one of the better corners in the NFL. So,
okay, so I feel better about my pick.
So I like your pick a lot. It would have been would not actually been my next pick.
Okay.
But my burning question is just Joe Burrow's right wrist.
Yeah.
It's obviously we're not going to get an answer until we really see him, until the season goes on. Because I'm with you. This O-line, best he's had in his career. I like what they've done revamping their back 7. I think their front 4 is maybe where they could have taken a step back, but obviously G.A. Reader with his injuries wasn't quite the same, but I think they're getting a little just older in the tooth with the guys they have in the fold there. But now, I think they bounce back to form. I believe when we get to it, I will have the Bengals making the playoffs.
And you got to think with the style of offense that the Bengals are going to be playing, they're going to score points. Teams will be forced to throw the ball. They'll play into the strength of that defense as opposed to what you're talking about, a reeling defensive front.
I have them making the playoffs, but I do not have them winning the North. The team I have winning the North, Cleveland Browns, is who I will be picking here.
Who's going to be their savior?
That's a good question. And we'll obviously have to have
They're
that
going to need a
answer.
lawyer and a priest up there.
Dude, they hit the amount of who they brought in on this roster in terms of pairing Jameis with Deshaun Watson is just an utterly absurd. And then to have your second round pick get a domestic violence charge right out the gate.
I just wish that they had
Hall.
Hard Knocks wherever Jameis Winston was. That guy needs a camera with him at all times and a microphone. He is one of the most entertaining people.
But this Browns team, largely the same as we saw last year. They lose, obviously, Joe Flacco, unfortunately, but they brought in Jameis Winston. Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki, the linebackers leave. They added Jerry Jeudy from the Denver Broncos via trade. Mike Hall, the DT, looked good in the preseason, but again, we don't know how much he'll play this year after all that's been going on with these legal issues off the field here. But my burning question is, with the team that won 11 games last year, a lot of those with Joe Flacco, that's only projected to win 8.5 and has the third hardest schedule in the NFL, are they going to be brave enough to bench Deshaun Watson? That's my burning question.
Who hasn't thrown a football since November?
Who still has shoulder pain issues.
General soreness.
That he has to miss practices this preseason, who has looked nothing like the quarterback we ever saw in Houston, who was legitimately awful at times last year. Do they have the cojones to bench him? Because they were better. They were flat out way better with Joe Flacco.
There were a couple guys who came in not named Deshaun Watson with some real spark plugs to this offense throughout the course of the preseason. And you go on Twitter tells you the story before you can see it with your own eyes. But they're like, I mean, look at these quarterbacks not named Deshaun Watson in here for the Cleveland Browns, looking like they can run Stefanski's offense with ease. Why can't he do it? Is the shoulder that bad?
Because they're loaded. This team is utterly loaded.
I
think we underrate how good this team is.
We love the offensive line in Cleveland.
Yeah. Because Deshaun looks so bad.
Big, handsome, strong, just strapping dudes getting ready to protect your skill players. That's what it's all about, baby.
All right, what's your burning?
Okay, my burning question for the Browns.
Yeah,
I mean that was really it. What's the deal with Deshaun Watson? Okay, because I've picked him at we've had 4 episodes now. I've talked about him glowingly in some of these episodes, but I get the injury updates, and when I do, I start to question my own sanity, and I start to think that I've got Stockholm syndrome being a fan of Deshaun Watson. Why can't it just make sense to me and make it make sense, Stefanski? Bench him, bring somebody else in so I don't have to think about him anymore. Does that make sense?
You say you're a fan of Deshaun Watson reminds me of one of my buddies
I'm a fan of his game. He was the Michael Jordan of college football.
He was on track to be he was almost like an NBA star in that my buddy was a fan of him and not necessarily a fan of football teams.
Okay.
He was just a fan of him. That's how NBA players are. They're just fans of players.
Kids are Steph Curry fans.
And imagine being a fan of just Deshaun Watson as soon as all that.
That's a bad investment.
Sexual assault allegations. He just threw all his jerseys.
I'm a fan of a lot of people. Okay. People at home. All right. I don't have just a Watson jersey in my closet. All right. There are others.
But yeah, the Cleveland Browns, the roster is elite. Truly, defensive line's loaded. Secondary is as deep as it gets in the NFL right now. Offensive line,
bully ball.
The receiving core gets open. 3 guys that can separate. That 3 is, they have ball skill issues, but they can get open at will. So a lot to like, but again, comes back to Deshaun.
A team with a dude who I am a massive fan of, a way bigger fan than Deshaun Watson of. This guy in Buffalo, Josh Allen.
There you go.
I'm as big a Josh Allen fan as there is, okay? And his personality, it speaks to me. There's something about his size, his personality, his physical gifts, his God-given physical gifts that make it so I can never count him out. And I know that they've got a couple new pieces. They're going to be taking on a role of stardom in that offense with the hole that is Stephon Diggs' production from this past offseason. Obviously, Stephon Diggs going to Houston. I love the Buffalo Bills. Give me some reasons why I should feel better about my pick.
Well, you should feel better about your pick because they've won at least 11 games for 4 straight years, won the AFC East each of those seasons. They only have the 10th hardest schedule in the NFL, despite obviously winning the East last year. And most of that's because that division's difficult. 10.5 wins they're projected for. It's juiced to the over because, again, 4 straight years of 11 wins. Plus, and they added Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins. Some losses, though, on this roster. They're big. Stephon Diggs, Jordan Poyer, Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse, Leonard Floyd, Micah Hyde, Dane Jackson, Tim Settle, and which is my burning question. what do they do with Matt? How do they replace Matt Milano? Because they could not last year. They did not do it well last year.
Give two guys weapons, and that will replicate Matt Milano's production.
Like legitimate power weapons.
Just give them a couple blow darts.
There you go. Yeah. That's
seriously. Okay.
Because you can't. They can't.
Buffalo, will Josh Allen be enough with this new look Bills offense in a loaded AFC? Will he shine bright enough in the moments where the other stars are going to show up in a stadium and play with their loaded teams? Does Josh Allen have enough in the tank to put this team on his shoulders when the time comes?
I do think that's it. Like, is Josh that caliber, right? Is he the caliber that no matter what, I'm getting us to 11 wins every year? There are quarterbacks that, that's Mahomes. That's those are the elites.
That's
over
par
time.
For the course for them.
Rodgers, that's, the top end guys. The roster can have all these question marks. They soothe it out. They figure it out and get you to the promised land. They don't get you to the Super Bowl, but they get you there. So is Josh Allen that caliber quarterback, or has he benefited from the fact that they kind of were going all in for a few years there? They were spending a lot in free agency. That's why you get all these losses, because they had to do it from a cap perspective. Spending a lot to add. Now are they kind of going to come back to mediocrity?
God,
we'll see.
It's tough. That city's been through so much in football in the last, however many decades, including, with DeMar going down. You talk about the Super Bowls back in the day with Jim Kelly's squad. And then now with Josh Allen, every year you've got to, this is our year. Let's go headbutt the tables. And next thing you know, you're icing up and you're screaming at Patrick Mahomes because he's in the next round.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Last one before we go do a little break here. Los Angeles Chargers is my next pick.
Gosh, you jumped
big turnaround with them. I'm predicting every year we're seeing some turnover, and I'm predicting some big turnover in the AFC. They went 5-12 last year, projected for 8.5 wins. This one's way juiced to the over, -160. That's the high. That's the most of any team right now in the NFL. The highest juicing, because they have the 31st hardest schedule. This is an easy schedule they have in a fairly easy division. Like I said, the easiest, at least in the AFC.
They're juicing out there.
They're juicing all around the league. And my favorite the key ads here: Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Bradley Bozeman, Denzel Perriman, Christian Fulton, DJ Chark in the draft, Joe All, Lad McConkey, Junior Colson, new GM. Joe Horitz really went bargain bin shopping in free agency. They didn't have a lot to play with, had to kind of reset this cap here.
Tackle more.
Because they lost Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Kenneth Murray, Eric Kendricks, Gerald Everett, Austin Johnson. Kind of almost like a retiree, like an old folks home, left town. Kind of had to replenish with some youngsters here because the core got old there real quick. My burning question with them is, what does Greg Roman's offense look like with an elite passer? He never really
That's a great point.
unlocked Lamar Jackson in that regard. It was always the run game first. We saw it back in we never really saw it in San Francisco. They didn't have the elite passers. We saw it with Andrew Luck back at Stanford. But that's the last time we've really seen Greg Roman do that. And again, Luck was much more pass happy once he got to the NFL and put up much bigger numbers than he did at Stanford.
Now when I close my eyes and think about Luck, I just picture him breaking contain and just throwing absolute strikes outside the numbers to go like 6'5", 250, just an absolute. That's what we're going to be looking at with Justin Herbert. Like, when you close your eyes a little bit and you squint, you can it's Andrew Luck with a surfboard is Justin Herbert. My burning question about this team, and really it's about football fans in general, because I've heard so many different ways to contextualize Justin Herbert's success. Is America ready to get back on the Justin Herbert stock that's going to be rising with ever such rocketry? I feel like with Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, all these guys. Joe Alt's a great pick. I think that's going to be a mute button for him at tackle for years to come. I think those two have a great relationship on the field, and it'll help out tremendously. But look, is America ready to cheer for Justin Herbert again?
I hope so, because they're going to win some games. At least I'm predicting them to win some games. All right, to recap a little bit, you have currently Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, Bills. You have the old guard of the AFC.
That's how I roll. I
got the new guard. I got the up-and-comers. I got Texans, Jets, Browns, Chargers. We'll pick the last 8 here coming up after a quick break.
Jump into this week's unforgettable moments, electrifying action, and pure football passion with the Inside College Football Team.
All right, here we go. Back at it. 8 more teams to go to get through the AFC, and I believe you are up. I think we have some playoff teams last year still on the board, at least one.
I'm up, and, we are new residents. I'm a Florida man now. I got a DMV appointment this Friday. I'm going to go with my guys down the road, the old Tyreek Hill Torpedoes, the old Rocket Racers, the Miami Dolphins. And Mike McDaniel's got a new look, but I can tell you what's not going to have a new look, that offense. They're going to be throwing the ball at Tyreek. They're going to be getting that ball out of Tua's hand quickly. I think that another year under the tutelage within this offense, they only progress more and they become more efficient. The Dolphins are my next pick.
Dolphins 11-6 last year, 25th easiest schedule in the NFL actually, but they're only projected to get 9.5 wins, -145. So people believing in the over. Now they added a lot, but they lost a lot of roster turnover on this team. Kendall Fuller, cornerback, came over from Washington. Aaron Brewer, new center in town. Jordan Poyer, Jordan Brooks, Jonnu Smith, Tierra Tart, Anthony Walker Jr., Odell Beckham Jr., and then in the draft, Chop Robinson, a pass rusher, Patrick Paulson, insurance, a tackle. Some key losses, though. Christian Wilkins, Robert Hunt, $100 million men there on both sides of the ball. Xavier Howard, not a massive loss because he kind of lost it at the end there once you turn 30 at cornerback. Sometimes it just goes. And with Xavier Howard, it kind of went. Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, Deshaun Elliott. So turnover, big, but this team obviously is a Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa led.
Yeah, they're going to control the tempo of the football game. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And my burning question, and this is the only one that I wrote one word for, is defense. And obviously Jalen Phillips is going to be coming off an injury. That's the tip of the spear for this defense, right? I
love just defense question mark. Is the burning
question mark, okay? Yeah. Because we've got everything else kind of figured out. We've got a brilliant coach. We've got a quarterback we've seen him win football games at all the levels of football. Now we need to find out if he can lead this team to a higher place in the league. The question is defense. Are they going to have enough? And you talked about the turnover, the new guys, the old guys leaving. Are they better off this year?
Yeah, that is, I agree. It is defense if I'm worried at all about this team, but mine was more trenches. Do they have it in the trenches? When you lose guys like Robert Hunt, who I do think got a little overpaid. I'm calling him $100 million man, but he was not like an elite guard to lose. This isn't like losing Zach Martin or anything, but you still have to replace a guy like that.
Ball's out so fast in that offense.
Exactly.
Oh, I could play guard at 280, I think.
Christian Wilkins to me is the bigger one, where it's like that guy set the tone in the run game, that you weren't a great run defense, and he was kind of like your guy that said it. So lines of scrimmage for this team, can they, when you're competing with offensive lines like the Bills have, offensive lines like the Chiefs have, offensive lines not like the Bengals have. Like some of the tops in the league, some big dudes.
Masses of humanity.
Do they have enough on that D-line to really hold up with Jalen Phillips coming off his ACL tear? Is he going to come back? And as much as I like Chop Robinson, he's not a run game.
He's not going to stand up to the run for 70 plays.
So that's where I'm worried about this Dolphins team. But it's a good pick. They're
trying to build this roster on defense to defend what they know is coming, and that's going to be the pass, because we know Mike McDaniel is going to put points on the board. We know Tua and Tyreek are going to do their thing. Jalen Waddle is going to get off and do his dance. But the defense, that's a question. We're going to get that answer here soon.
All right, my next pick. I'm going to go Indianapolis Colts. No secret. I'm in love with the team in terms of where they could go this year. 9-8 last year with no Anthony Richardson most of the season. 26th hardest schedule in the NFL. Only projected for 8.5 wins. This one's actually, people aren't believing in the Colts the way I am. It's plus 110 right now to get that number. But this team largely stay intact. Yes, they lost Gardner Minshew, but obviously with Anthony Richardson, we think that's an upgrade at the quarterback position.
Open the playbook up a little bit more.
Zach Moss, your really only other key loss to this team. Raekwon Davis, they add to the defensive interior, and then their draft picks, I think, could make as big an impact as any, outside of like the top 5 to 10 in the NFL, with Latu as a pass rusher, Adonai Mitchell as your now number 2 type of wide receiver. My only question is this secondary ready for the offenses in the AFC?
That's the question?
That's my question. Because everyone's got the same question about Anthony Richardson, right? Everyone and their mother was.
I like that you're watching the whole thing, though.
But Jalen Jones, Juju Brents are starting corners.
I go on.
A second rounder from last year and a 7th rounder from last year. Nick Cross, your new starting safety, hasn't played a ton in his career. He was a second rounder a few years back, heading into year 3. There's youth in the secondary.
They've got young ballers.
And you got to shut down some passing offenses in the AFC that can hum, right? Those guys going up against Tyreek, those guys going up against this Texans receiving core, those guys going up against this Titans receiving core.
They'll be better
going
for
to get battle tested.
They'll be better for it.
And are they ready? We'll see. But that's my question.
Yeah, I mean, my question is still going to be Anthony Richardson. It has to be Anthony Richardson. You know, as somebody who has been part of an offense that goes because of the quarterback, and I've been part of offenses that don't go because of quarterbacks. And I'll tell you what, if there's any doubt in my mind about this operation in Indianapolis, it's going to be Anthony Richardson's willingness to go down when the time comes. And when I say go down, I mean get on the ground, avoid contact, because there's an entire sideline you're pretty much responsible for. There are suites up top with owners in them. You're responsible for the success of their company as well. You're the face of the franchise. I want nothing more than Anthony Richardson to have that kind of savant savviness about him where the ball's out on time and he's not taking shots and he's sliding down after 8 yards instead of trying to get to 11 and maybe something happens. I don't want to see that for him. I want to see success. I want your pick to ring true, and I want this team to play well. But my burning question is Anthony ready to take that next step from a maturation standpoint of a quarterback?
Yeah, you're not wrong. It is. It's like that's obviously going to determine their ceiling.
He's going to get better as a quarterback under Shane Steichen's teachings, all this stuff.
I was tired of asking questions.
My question's like, get down, bro.
Yeah.
Get down.
And he's just not played a ton of football, and this is dating back to his time at Florida. He had a season's worth of football under his belt and not a super pass-heavy offense. So that's what we need to see.
Okay, so you went with the Colts. I am going to go with the Jaguars.
Nice pick.
Last one. I don't get it yet, and we'll get to my burning question, but you've got pieces coming back. You've got guys getting healthy. You bring in some offensive linemen from out of town. You get an offensive lineman getting off of injury. I think it's Robinson, Morse, right? And then you get Kirk back. You get all your characters back here. You get Evan Ingram, who's on a record pace, really, if you look at it over the course of the last few years. The guy's incredible. I don't know what it is that's stopping this team from figuring out. And it could be the fact that they got to go play Kansas City in the playoffs, and that's why they're maybe not weighting this thing properly when judging Trevor Lawrence and judging Doug Peterson's teams. But that's tough sledding when you got to go play Kansas City, right? I mean, is that really the only thing that they have going against them?
Well, they have going against them is that they're kind of just going the wrong way from a roster perspective, in my opinion. I mean, like the slide last year towards the second half of last year was indicative of just the fact that
depth,
they're not that great, right? Yeah. Like they don't have, to me, they don't have the impact players. Like they have a Josh Allen on defense, the other Josh Allen.
Yes.
And then on the offensive side of the ball, they have a Trevor. They don't have that guy at either side. That's really like a hanger hat on that guy showing up every single week and being an elite player. I think that's their biggest issue. And I don't think they answered that over the course of this offseason. That's why my burning question is just because their additions were Gabe Davis, Eric Armstead, Mitch Morse, Darnell Savage, Ronald Darby, Mac Jones.
Yep. In
the draft, Brian Thomas Jr., Mason Smith, two LSU guys. But they lost Calvin Ridley, probably their best wide receiver last year. They lost Darius Williams, their second corner last year, Rayshon Jenkins. Do the number one picks live up to the hype? That's the burning question. That's how you get to impact players on both sides.
And can they maximize the roles of some of these non-star skill players within this offense? Can these guys on offense buy into what Dougie P is talking about? And then can they be on time, in rhythm with Trevor? Because look, the turnovers, the issue for this offense at times was turnovers, right? Mm-hmm. Interceptions for Trevor, also fumbles lost. When you hold on to the ball, it's because something happened that you didn't expect. And whether that's guys being covered or guys not getting out of their breaks, Trevor's going to hold on to the ball. He has a tendency to do that, and the ball comes out when he does that. Yeah. So we got to be on the same page.
So if he joins that, elite tier of quarterbacks firmly this year, Trayvon Walker makes the leap from, if he even looks as good as what we saw from Aiden Hutchinson last year, right? Like if he gets to that point and gives you two guys off the edge and him and Josh Allen that are in that kind of tier of problems. Yeah, you can sell me on this Jaguars team being a 12-win team. But until that, I just don't see it. And that's obviously why they are still on the board here. But I think there kind of was a tier. Jaguars were like last of my real deal, could get to 11 wins sort of teams.
Play a meaningful game. at some point in the season.
After that, we're kind of slim pickings here. And I'm going to go with
I know where you're going.
Denver Broncos. Is that where you had me going?
Right down the block from the team that I had thought.
Because, one, Sean Payton.
Yep.
Still had this team at 8 wins last year. Yeah, they have the 8th hardest schedule in the NFL. Yeah, they're only projected for 5.5 wins. But that one's out juiced to minus 135 on the over because of how good Bo Nix has looked this preseason. They added some, but they probably lost a little bit more than they added. John Franklin Myers on the D-line, Josh Reynolds at wide receiver, Levi Wallace to add to the secondary, Brandon Jones as well at safety. Lost Russ Wilson, addition by subtraction. Jerry Jeudy, maybe that as well. Lloyd Cushenberry at center is going to be difficult to replace. Justin Simmons at safety, Josie Jewell at linebacker. My burning question, though, it's not going to be about Bo Nix. I have no questions about Bo Nix after what I saw. That's not true, but it's more, where are the youngsters? Where are the youngsters going to step up on this team? Because after the Russell Wilson trade and all they had to give up, this was the worry, is that all of a sudden you're going to be an old team with very few guys contributing on the rookie contracts. You know what we talked about with the Texans? All these guys who are getting paid a little, performing highly. The Broncos don't have those guys because all the first rounders they gave up in the Russ Wilson trade. They have Patrick Surtain. That's it. After that, is Baron Browning going to take that next step? Is Javonte Williams at running back going to take that next step? Jaquan McMillan in the slot. Nick Benito, edge rusher. Jonah Ellis, the rookie edge rusher. Jonathan Cooper, the edge rusher. Greg Dulcich, your tight end. Luke Wattenberg, who's now your starting center. Which of those guys turns into dudes? If any. That's what they need. That's how this team gets over the hump. I'm not sure I see it at the moment, but that's what we need if you're a Denver Broncos fan.
I love that. That was a dynamic, in-depth breakdown of the Broncos issues. That's cool. And, I was talking to my guy from the Greenlight podcast, Cowboy Reed. I don't know if Reed's listening right now. He's a huge Denver fan. Yeah, he's great. So he's got a lot of hope, but there's a lot riding on this defense being the group that they bargained for, particularly up the middle. And that second level of the defense, they've got some new names, fresh names, guys like JFM who are going to have an opportunity to be a star in the defense. And what are their first at-bats being the household name like in the building? But then my burning question is, how much can Bo Nix progress under the tutelage of Sean Payton's offense and his teachings? I just think that we've seen so much comfort from him in the past. I can't really attribute all his success in the preseason to Sean Payton. I'm looking forward to seeing the Sean Payton effect because we've seen what 0 looks like. Let's go into the green here. Let's go down the road about 10, 12 weeks with Bo Nix.
And I'll say this about Nix preseason versus regular season. He is the kind of quarterback who will murder soft zone all day long. Like the stuff he does in terms of just picking apart underneath.
Take what's given.
That's what you're getting in the preseason. You're getting those easy looks that aren't going to try to fool you and send guys underneath those routes that maybe he wasn't expecting. You're not getting the disguises that you will once he gets to the regular season that you worry about him with sort of his pre-snap predetermining. So yeah, he was always going to look good this preseason, in my opinion. It could be a vastly different scenario when the real lights come on. That's if I'm putting a little damper on the Knicks hype.
Yeah, you could go from off and soft, as it were, to press coverage. You could have mix-up leverages. You could disguise some of these coverage. That's going to be the real question, is what's Bo going to do, not only the first time he plays teams with confusing defenses, but in division. What happens when Spags starts to roll coverage pre-snap and post-snap? Are we going to see Bo Nix progress in that department? That's my burning question.
All right, next team. We have 4 left. Steelers, Titans, Raiders, Patriots.
My next team, let me find that sheet. What did we just do? We just did the Broncos. I'm going to pick the Titans.
Ooh, that was going to be. No, actually, I had a different pick, but go off.
I'm going to go Titans. I'm a big Will Levis fan. You can tell I like these guys with the big arms that are kind of unproven, have been a bit disrespected. I feel like it was an interesting offseason for him in Nashville or out of Nashville, wherever the hell Will Levis is during the offseason. He's had quite a ride. But looking at this football season and looking at the new regime and the new tutelage of Coach Callahan and some of the things they're going to be asking him to do as a quarterback, I'm not quite sure that last year was kind of like, let's see what this arm can do. Let's see how far he can throw it. Let's see how tough he is. Let's see how many of these adverse situations we can put Will Levis in. This will be the first sample size where everything is dialed up for Will Levis. Will Levis will have the pick of the litter, as it were, in the first 15s of these seasons games, and he'll have a big say in the meetings and the style of football they're going to play. This is his team. I want to know if Will Levis can be the guy. I've got some skin in the game on Will Levis. I just have talked about him since day one. I really enjoy his style of play. He seems like a guy that you would want to block for if you're an offensive lineman, and I root for guys like that.
I will say Levis's stats this preseason were pretty elite, but if you flip on the tape, it was screens, it was play action passes. Not a lot that we can glean from that, but I will say bodes well for Brian Callahan in this offense, considering how much he got out of Jake Browning last year down the stretch when he had to have a backup quarterback. The screen game, the play action game was elite there in Cincinnati. That bodes well for Will Levis's situation there. What also bodes well is the fact that they added Calvin Ridley, Lloyd Cushenberry, Tony Pollard, Tyler Boyd, J.C. Latham to this offense. To this defense, they added L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, Kenneth Murray, Tavondre Sweat, the big monster at the nose. They did lose, however, King Henry, Derrick Henry at running back, Azeez Al-Shaair, Aaron Brewer, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Danico Autry. So a lot of turnover. I think more good coming on this roster. If I'm looking top to bottom, they look improved at least.
It's a
to
win
my
now
eyes.
receiver room, but
It
like
definitely
they're
is.
all guys who are in the back nine kind of their career, not necessarily on the 17th hole. Some of these guys are on the 10th or 11th hole, but this group has experience. So I mean, they're setting Will Levis up here pretty well.
Yeah, but not a lot of Will Levis believers out there. After winning only 6 games last year and only projected for 6.5 this year, that's juice to the under. You get a plus 125 if you really believe in the Tennessee Titans. So that might be one worth throwing something down. My question, though, can they keep Will Levis upright? You have a rookie starting at left tackle who has never played there before in your first rounder, J.C. Latham. You have Nicholas Petit-Frere at right tackle who's not been super encouraging
One of my
over the
favorite
course
names
of his career.
Football.
Great name. Not a great tackle just yet.
Not great game.
No, there you go. So that's it. And now I love, obviously, again, what Brian Callahan did with a bad offensive line. He still got good offenses for the vast majority of his time with Cincinnati Bengals. But can he do it with Will Levis? Because with Levis, he has that Daniel Jones-ish pocket presence where he will deliver strikes under pressure, but it's more so because I don't think he even sees it. Like sometimes I'm like,
He will read what's on that teleprompter.
Did he even know that he was under pressure? It's like
You want a little bit of that in a quarterback.
you want some of that, but you also don't want the guy who's just sitting back there and just getting blindsided.
No
by his
sensory
exactly.
awareness.
So he toes that line. And if you have the tackles that they have, I worry about him towing that line.
I just think about Forrest Gump running down the field, not turning at all, just running right through the defense. That's how Will Levis plays quarterback. And I kind of now
It's fun to watch.
I like him even more after thinking about that. Okay, next team.
My next pick, I'm going to have to go with the team that, at this rate, we're in the bottom 3 now.
Yep, it gets ugly.
That you can give me 9 wins a year because it always happens with Mike Tomlin. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
I know
it's a good one.
that they have the hardest schedule in the NFL right now, at least according to Vegas odds. I know that they're projected to 8.5 wins, but it's juiced to the over, minus 120. People know that every single year Mike Tomlin wins at least, well, it used to be at least 8 games. Now it should be at least 9 because he doesn't go below 500 is the thing. A little roster turnover, especially at the quarterback position where they lost Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Turbo this offseason. Added Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, added Patrick Queen at linebacker, added Troy Fautanu at right tackle, Zach Frazier at center, who looked great this preseason. But they lost Deontay Johnson as well. Maybe be adding Brandon Ayuk here sooner or later. And if that does, I'd really feel good about this pick. But my burning question is just, how do Fields or Russ, because they're kind of similar in how they play the quarterback position, truthfully, how do they coexist with Arthur Smith? Because when we saw Arthur Smith at his best, not in Atlanta, back when he was the OC at Tennessee, it was play action, hit the area behind the linebackers, right? Like that is his bread and butter. He wants to run the ball, and then he wants to play action off it to get explosive plays in the passing game. But that area of the football field is traditionally, at least for both these quarterbacks, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, where they have struggled to attack the most. They love throwing it outside the numbers. They love those go balls. And George Pickens is a go ball guy. That's a good pairing right there. But will they be able to consistently make those fearless throws into the windows that you see in the middle of the football field?
That's my mesh
Those digs,
concept. Those
the
of you
digs,
on
the mesh,
audio.
all that. Will they hit them? Well, that's why I asked the question. I don't know.
So at what point does this offense look like a modern, productive unit? That's question one. But really, my burning question is, with two QBs, there's always dissent privately in the locker room and publicly in the media and on the town. How much of that will we see in Pittsburgh? Because, at the first sign of ineptitude offensively, people are going to be saying, throw the other guy in there. And then when he does, throw him back in there. And now we're just going to do a dance where you guys just keep switching.
Well, especially I have no clue how it's going down the Steelers locker room right now, but from everything of their previous stops, Justin Fields has been beloved, whether it's Ohio State, whether it's Chicago. Russell Wilson has been belied, whether it's Seattle, whether it's Denver. He has not been a man of the people in the locker room, so to speak.
Yep.
There have not been glowing reviews of him on his way out. So if it is Russ that wins the job, when maybe the locker room
I'm going here.
There could be that.
This exists in the locker room, okay? There's super PACs, and then there's like those back smoky room people that influence politics. And there's a little bit of that going on in every locker room where there's a conversation about two quarterbacks. And I'm just wondering, where there's smoke, there's fire. How much smoke is there going to be in Pittsburgh if Russell Wilson stumbles a bit early? And I mean, obviously, he's been a great quarterback throughout his career. We've got a lot of respect for Russell, but it might not be pretty. And with him learning this new scheme, new team, a lot to see here.
Very much a lot to see.
Okay, so for my pick.
We have people in the chat asking if it's really me in the chat. Yes, it's really me in the chat. And
I got to get in the chat.
In there and ask some questions.
I got to get in the chat. Welcome, everybody from Chatland. Hello, TV land. It's me and Mike. We're your friends. It's Monday morning. Come hang out with us. It's the last week without a regular season football. So get ready.
College, though. That's why
for the season. College schmollage, College schmollage. Play me in CFB. My next pick.
Two left. Raiders and Patriots.
The Raiders. I couldn't pick them to be last. I couldn't do it. And I love Coach Pierce. I think they've got guys on that roster who will not allow the team to be the worst team in football. I think about dudes like Max Crosby and, Antonio Pierce. If I'm a player in that locker room and I have to answer to Antonio Pierce after a tough Sunday game, I want to make sure that I did my job to the best of my ability. Because if I'm answering to a guy like that who I have respect for, my game elevates. And I have to think that guys in that locker room are going to play hard. I mean, I know that they don't have ideal situation here. 28th in rushing last year. You bring Luke Getsy in. His units are historically top 3 in the league in rushing. I think it kind of bodes well for a team that doesn't have a real answer at quarterback here. No elite answer. Let's run the hell out of the football, maybe. What do you think? What say you, Mike?
I mean, they won 8 games last year. They did.
8 games.
They're projected for 6.5, though, this year. Gardner Minshew comes over. Christian Wilkins comes over.
Yep.
Brock Bowers comes into the fold. Jackson Powers Johnson, one of my favorite picks, coming at left guard. They did lose Josh Jacobs, but he did not have his best year, so 4.0 yards per carry. Lost Jermaine Illuminor. I think Jackson Powers Johnson is an upgrade over him, though, to be honest. I think your O-line's still going to be better this year. On the defense side of the ball, Meek Robertson, Bilal Nichols leave town. Not huge losses. I do just think what's going to be the identity of this team, because, you were kind of a Josh Jacobs, even if he didn't have the greatest year, you were kind of like, let's pound him. Is Zamir White going to be able to recapture the fear that Josh Jacobs brought in to really work that play action game? I am excited to see, because, again, we've talked about this tight ends and kind of how we think that's, a nice zig for how modern offenses are zagging, to have those two guys in Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers that have versatile skill sets, versatile blockers.
It's sexy, that offense.
Yeah.
Watching two tight ends, different sizes, lining up in different spots. Inline blocking tight end. You get a tight end that's a little wiggly coming from the backfield. It could be a lot of fun to watch. But, I mean, that's for Luke Getsy to show us.
But this is also why we're drafting them.
31st.
Second to last year.
Go Raiders.
Which leaves me with the New England Patriots, who I think I had ranked my teams out prior to this. I had them as the dead last one for a number of reasons. One, because they only won 4 games last year. 2, because they're only projected for 4.5. Patriots fans are believing, though. They have that at minus 150. People are heavy betting this right now. Not sure why, because they have the second hardest schedule in the NFL as it stands. They did add Jacoby Brissett, Chuka Okorafor, Sione Takitaki. Obviously in the draft, Drake Maye, Jalen Polk, Caden Wallace, who should be starting a left tackle, which is wild to me as a 3rd rounder. Key losses, though, Trent Brown, probably a big loss. Mac Jones, obviously, was quarterback, not that big a loss because, well, he stunk. and Mike Gesicki at tight end. So my burning question, we kind of already touched on it when we talked about Drake Maye's preseason performance. How do they just stop the quarterbacks from getting killed? This O-line's just as bad as it gets in the NFL. We'll read it across left to right as it stands right now. What they think the star is going to be: Vidarian Lowe at left tackle, Sidney Sell at left guard, David Andrews at center, Mike Onwenu, okay, right guard, we can take that. Chuka Okorafor at right tackle.
David Andrews is like one of the guys at the wall in Game of Thrones. He's just been living in New England. He's seen the deterioration of the wall. He's like, the dragons are coming, mate. They're coming. We're all dead, mate. Yeah. That's David Andrews. And I'm hoping they're not. And if you're a Patriots fan, I hate to – this is, anti-patriotism discrimination here, putting the New England Patriots at the bottom of the barrel. It's the National Football League. We should have a sense of patriotism. If you're going to write the script, guys, let's at least put the Patriots somewhere in the mid-pack, right? Make us feel like we have a chance. But here we are at the bottom. That was fun. That was fun.
There we go. AFC. Well, we'll take a quick break here. When we get back, we'll do our playoff picks and who we think is going to be the AFC representative.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
All right, Kyle. We gave kind of who we thought were going to be the winningest teams. And to give a full breakdown, you have the Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, Bills, Dolphins, Jags, Titans, Raiders. I have the Texans, Jets, Browns, Chargers, Colts, Broncos, Steelers, and the Patriots. We'll revisit that after the season to see a little bragging rights within the office here. But now we want to get to actually division winners, wild cards, and who is your AFC representative. Just go down the line, hit me with them.
I'm good at picking winners on divisions. You're going to have to help me out with the wild card stuff. I always kept my eyes closed, and if my jersey was in my locker, I knew we made the wild card game. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm pretty simple like that. It's like,
so there's three of them.
Okay. So help me out as we go. Yeah. So I'm going to pick divisions. I'll start with the AFC North.
Go for it.
I'll start with the AFC North. I got the Baltimore Ravens doing it. I do think Burrow wins comeback player of the year, but I've got Lamar Jackson and these Ravens figuring it out come crunch time. Now moving on here to the AFC East. I'm going to be picking the Buffalo Bills to win the AFC East. I think it's going to be a close one between Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen all year, but I think Josh Allen, his youth reigns supreme in that division. I think that in the AFC West, it's a walk away Kansas City Chiefs. They do it again for like the fifth. How many years in a row is it? Like 14?
Too many.
Something like that. AFC South, it's going to be kind of obvious here. The Houston Texans, there will be no sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud. It's just a matter of how high he's going to pump. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. All right. Wild cards?
Got three. Wild cards. We do the wild cards. For the wild cards, I'm going to be going with the Cleveland Browns. We'll be making a wild card. I'm going to be going with stick with me here. I've got the Jaguars wild card again, and then I've got the Denver Broncos winning a wild card game. That's my shocker pick. I'm going to be sitting on that one all season and wishing I didn't say that.
All right, my take: North Browns.
Okay,
that was one of my higher picks. East Jets, South Texans, West Chiefs. Wild cards: Chargers, Bengals, Colts. I just think. That means no Bills. That means no Ravens. That means no Dolphins.
Yeah, I think it's no Chargers, no Colts.
I think we get a little turnover. I think we get a little turnover in the AFC, one, because I think the scheduling this year more so than others is going to matter a ton, because some of these teams, like the Chargers, like the Bengals, just have such easy goes of it comparatively that if you're not playing, like if you're avoiding the elites around the AFC, you're just in better shape, I think.
Because you're not getting just worn down.
Exactly. And so my representative, New York Jets in the AFC for the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I think they go. I think they got it. It would be a wild ride, and it would generate, New York media would be out of control.
It would be like Y2K24 between Aaron Rodgers being in the Super Bowl and Taylor Swift undoubtedly being there, not in the capacity of rooting for Travis.
Yeah.
She'll be there as a fan, maybe performing. That's crazy. Okay, so you have the Jets. I'm obviously going to be picking the Chiefs, but if I didn't pick the Kansas City Chiefs to go, and I wanted to make this exercise interesting, I would Jeez, I haven't even stopped to do that. I mean, it's not
You
going
could
to be
just pick the
Houston.
Chiefs. You don't have to.
Okay, it's going to be the Chiefs, and if it's not, it'll be the Bengals.
There you go. All right. There's your AFC preview on Wednesday. We'll be doing the NFC, and we'll be doing a little reaction from Cut Down Day, which is obviously tomorrow. Some cuts will be coming out on Monday here throughout the day, but
We'll try to take it easy on the Bears glazing tomorrow, too.
we won't, or on Wednesday. But until then, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is you do. We're a new podcast. It helps us out a lot.
Tweet at us.
So appreciate you guys tuning in. Till Wednesday, keep pushing.